Hello and welcome to the CAA show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. Today, we will be talking of the India US relationship and what is going wrong in this relationship. We will also very briefly talk about the India Russia relationship as a contrast to the India US relationship. Now, let's start with this very important statement made by Foreign Minister Jaishankar in Moscow, where he said that India Russia ties are constant in a changing world, in a volatile world, in a very inconsistent world. And if you think about it, the statement is so true. For the last 70 years, our relationship has remained steady, rock solid, not very spectacular, but steady nonetheless. If you contrast India US relationship with this, then our relationship has always been inconsistent. I would even say that it keeps swinging like a yo yo ball from one end to the other. And what are the reasons for that? Why is India US relationship at times so rocky? At times it goes to heights which are unimaginable, but usually it is always plunging below, it is rocky, it is inconsistent. What are the reasons for that? आज इसको थोड़ा विस्तार में समझते हैं. आज समझते हैं कि ये क्या रीजंस हैं कि हमारी जो रिलेशनशिप यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के साथ है वो ठीक तरह से टिकी नहीं हुई है. इसमें बहुत ही इनकंसिस्टेंसी है. So in the United States, whether be it Republicans or the Democrats, they all believe, all of them, all the senators, all the top lawmakers, everyone believes in this principle, and this principle of either you are with us or you are against us. और जहाँ तक मेरा ख्याल है ये प्रेसिडेंट बुश ने इराक वॉर के टाइम ये लाइन उनकी थी, either you are with us or against us. I also call it the principle of the Star Wars principle. Star Wars फिल्में थी, 5-6 फिल्में बनी थी which are very popular films, स्पेस के ऊपर थी. और उसके अंदर बेसिक जो कहानी थी कि मतलब the coalition of good people, they fight the coalition of the bad people or the evil people. तो ये जो एम्पायर ऑफ इवल जो रोनाल्ड रेगल की एक थ्योरी है, either you are with us or against us, ये यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स की एक फिलॉसफी है, इनकी एक क्रीडो है, इनका एक ये मानना है जिसको इनकी फॉरेन पॉलिसी में हमेशा देखा जाता है. And that, to my mind, is the single biggest reason for the problems between India and the United States. Now, India believes, as you might be knowing, in something called strategic autonomy, which means that we will engage with all sides. We will see where our best possible interests lie. It's not non-aligned, जैसे पहले होती थी, but it is that we will see our best possible interests and we will work according to that. But in इसको अगर आप डिसाइफर करें, इसको अब यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स इसको ऐसे समझता है कि ये जो पॉलिसी है दैट इज अगेंस्ट अस. सो दैट इज द सिंगल वन बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम व्हिच इज देयर इन इंडिया यूएस टाइज. मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल दूंगा, एक उदाहरण दूंगा. वैसे मेरे पास बहुत सारे एग्जांपल्स हैं कि ये जो कोलिशन है ऑफ द राइट अगेंस्ट द कोलिशन ऑफ द बैड और अगेंस्ट द इविल पीपल, कि ये किस हद तक इसका कितना बुरा अंजाम हो सकता है. But one very important example which I would like to give you, आपको याद होगा जब इराक वॉर हुई थी तो उसमें यूके के प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे टोनी ब्लेयर. एंड टोनी ब्लेयर joined the United States on the specious plea that Saddam Hussein had WMDs or weapons of mass destruction. और आप जानते ही हैं उस युद्ध के अंदर हजारों लाखों करोड़ों लोग मारे गए थे. और बाद में जब इन्वेस्टिगेटर्स ने पूरी अपनी जान पड़ताल की और सब कुछ, all investigations, and they all revealed that Iraq never had any WMDs. और उसका नतीजा क्या हुआ? लाखों करोड़ों लोग इराक में मारे गए थे. और टोनी ब्लेयर was one of the most popular prime ministers of UK. और जब ये सारे रेवलेशंस बाहर आए और जब पता चला कि उनकी इस जानबूझ के जो उन्होंने मतलब ये एक एक्सक्यूज बना के वॉर में जब ज्वाइन करा कोलिशन विद द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स, तो टोनी ब्लेयर की जो पॉपुलैरिटी थी वो खत्म तो हो ही गई थी बिल्कुल, बट he was a person who could not show his face to anyone after that, and that continues till this present day. तो जो कोलिशंस होते हैं उनका अंजाम यहां तक पहुंच सकता है. दिस इज द पॉइंट वी नीड टू रिमेंबर. जो दूसरी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हमारी यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स के साथ आती है, वो प्रॉब्लम हमारी आती है, आई कॉल इट एक्चुअली अ सिविलाइजेशनल प्रॉब्लम. देखिए, हम एक बहुत ही पुरानी सिविलाइजेशन है. वी गो बैक सेंचुरीज बैक. द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स एट द एंड ऑफ द डे इज स्टिल 200-250 ईयर्स ओल्ड. और उसके अंदर एक हमेशा से, राइट फ्रॉम द बिगनिंग, आई कॉल इट एन अपस्टार्ट मेंटालिटी रही है, जो कि वो अपनी, जिसे कहते हैं, अपनी जो आइडियोलॉजी है, जो अपनी सोच है, उसको वो लिटरली, मैंने एक हिंदी का शब्द यूज कर रखा, उसको ठोकना चाहते हैं पूरे विश्व के ऊपर. और ये अपस्टार्ट जो होते हैं, जो कि नए नए, जो जिसे कहते हैं, जिनके पास पावर आती है, सब कुछ होता है, ये वो लोग करते हैं. और यही यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स कब से कर रहा है. और दैट इज वन ऑफ द बिग डिफरेंसेस बिटवीन इंडिया एंड द यूएस. और इस आइडियोलॉजी के तहत होता क्या है कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स, और ये सोचते भी नहीं है, मुझे लगता है ये सोचते, इनके लोग सोचते भी नहीं है, बट दे फील इंटाइटल्ड, एंड आई एम यूजिंग दैट वर्ड इंटाइटल्ड, दैट वी कैन इंटरफेयर इन द पॉलिटिकल प्रोसेसेस ऑफ अदर कंट्रीज. तो ठीक है, आप करिए, आप कोसोवो में करिए, आप सर्बिया में करिए, आपने जहां करना करिए, छोटी मोटी कंट्रीज में. बट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इंडिया, a nation of 1.4 billion people. And when you try and interfere in our political process, you think that Indians or the Indian dispensation, political dispensation, koi bhi ho jaye, doesn't matter whichever, they will sit back and take it. We never took it even in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, जबकि एक दूसरी डिस्पेंशन, पॉलिटिकल डिस्पेंसेशन थी. और अब जब इंडिया इज अ राइजिंग पावर, जब हमारी इकोनॉमी इज डूइंग सो वेल, do you think we will take that interference? But the US doesn't change. In that upstart way of theirs, they keep interfering, and they want to interfere in your political process. और ये interfere कैसे करते हैं, उसके बारे में एक दो आपको पॉइंट्स देना चाहूंगा वेरी ब्रीफली. यूएस ने अपनी कुछ बॉडीज क्रिएट करी हुई है. एक बॉडी का नाम है, आप शायद फेमिलियर हो, इट्स कॉल्ड USCRIF. ये बॉडी जो है वो पूरा साल they do work on things like religious freedom in other countries, and then they publish a report on that, and then they give recommendations कि जो कंट्रीज रिलीजियस फ्रीडम नहीं दे रही, जो प्रेस को दबा रही हैं, या जो अपोनेंट्स को जेल कर रही हैं, तो उन पर आप कार्रवाई कीजिए, उन पर आप सैंक्शंस लगाइए. एंड फॉर द लास्ट 3, 4, 5 years, as long as I can remember, USCRIF has been giving a negative report about India year after year after year, and recommending sanctions against India. वैसे अभी तक तो किसी यूएस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में किसी की हिम्मत नहीं हुई कि इंडिया के खिलाफ सैंक्शंस लगाए, मगर तब भी ऐसी बॉडीज पास नहीं आती अपनी ये रिपोर्ट्स फाइल करने. एंड सो द क्वेश्चन यू हैव टू आस्क, दैट व्हाट आर दीज बॉडीज डूइंग इन द फर्स्ट प्लेस आउट देयर. ये क्या है, ये जैसे कहते हैं क्वाज़ाई गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज हैं, या गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज हैं, या एनजीओज हैं. नो, दे आर एक्चुअली पार्ट ऑफ द यूएस गवर्नमेंट, एंड आई थिंक दे हैव बीन क्रिएटेड deliberately. They work deliberately so that the US government can apply pressure on countries like India, for instance, when these reports are published. So that is again a big point of, जिसे कहते हैं, हमें इन मामलों पे not only when we don't see eye to eye, we have refuted all their charges, but the fact is, who are these bodies to talk about India? So that's again a point of difference between India and the US. और इसी के तहत you have things like Democracy Index, Hunger Index, और ये सारी NGOs हैं, but most of these NGOs, I don't know if you know about this, but they are funded partly by the US government. They are funded by foundations like Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation. These are foundations which actually, जिसे कहते हैं, ये भी एक तरह का political, quasi political foreign affairs का role play करते हैं in US foreign policy, and they support the US, and these are again bodies which are used as pressure points to apply against countries like India. We don't like that. Then एक और बड़ा हमारा जो डिपार्चर है between India and the US, and इसके बारे में थोड़ा विस्तार में बात करूंगा. See, we, on the face of it, we actually have a lot going for the two countries. हमने differences की तो बात करी है, But let's talk of the commonalities also. बहुत कुछ है common में. At the end of the day, we are both democracies. One is the largest democracy, one is the oldest democracy. We also have a free press, और चाहे NGOs, academics in the West कुछ भी बोलते रहे, but the fact is we have a thriving free press in India. यहाँ आज़ादी है, आप जो चाहें बोलें, जो चाहें आप लिखें. थोड़े restrictions तो definitely होते ही होते हैं, but we share that in common. But the most important thing is that Indians have a lot of affection for America and for Americans in general. And I also think that a lot of Americans have a lot of affection for Indians. And I'll tell you why. The reason for that is because the Indian population which migrated, the Indians who migrated to the US, by and large, most of them are in the professional class. They are very well respected. They are the highest paying minority. We all know that in the US. But सबसे बड़ी चीज जो हमें सोचने वाली बात यह है कि that the Indian minority in the US is a peace loving minority. अब आप देख लीजिए आजकल जो हाल हो रहे हैं वहां पर कि जो प्रो पैलेस्टीनियन और ये सब जो वहां पर चल रहे हैं, हर रोज सड़कों पे लोग निकले हुए हैं. मैंने अभी इनफैक्ट आई वाज जस्ट सीइंग अ रिपोर्ट कि these pro Palestinians they blocked the highway which is leading to JFK airport. और नॉट ओनली दे डिड दैट इन न्यूयॉर्क बट दे डिड इट इन लॉस एंजलिस ऑल्सो. यानी कि लोगों को एयरपोर्ट ही नहीं जाने दे रहे जब तक आपकी भैया आप सीज फायर नहीं कराओगे इसराइल में. तो ये तो कुछ माइनॉरिटीज का हाल है वहां पर इन द यूएस. बट वी डोंट डू दैट. You will never find Indians doing that because Indians by and large are a very peaceful minority, and this is something which Americans like. They understand that. Sorry for that. तो ये समझते हैं अमेरिकन्स, इस चीज को समझते हैं और इसकी बहुत इज्जत भी करते हैं. तो ये एक बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. So that is why I say, because of all these reasons, the politicians in the United States, both Republicans and Democrats, they actually like India. They want to have good relationship with India. लेकिन पॉलिसी जो है, डायरेक्शंस हमेशा ऊपर से आती हैं, पॉलिटिशियंस देते हैं, बट पॉलिसी वी ऑल नो हु द पॉलिसी इज मेड एंड इम्प्लीमेंटेड बाय द ब्यूरोक्रेसी. एंड आई एम सॉरी टू से in the US, the bureaucracy today is almost to a man and to a woman. It is hard left oriented, it is woke, it is also pro-Islamic. And that is why we are running into a problem with the United States. Because ये bureaucracy, जिसे कहते हैं, they are creating hurdles in every step of the way, especially the State Department bureaucracy. और उसमें कई नाम है. Some people of POK origin. Then there is this lady called Newland, जिसकी reputation मतलब जो है काफ़ी खराब reputation है. ऐसे कई लोग बैठे हुए हैं State Department who are not very happy with the present political dispensation in India. They want a regime change. They want to make huge changes. They want India to join their coalition, and they are prepared to go to any extent to make that happen. तो ये एक हकीकत है. This is not some figment of the imagination. This is a reality, and this is, to my mind, the single biggest source of friction between India and the United States. And unfortunately, the politicians on both sides cannot fix it. तो ये प्रॉब्लम है, जबरदस्त प्रॉब्लम है. मैंने आपको थोड़ा ये विस्तार में इंडिया यूएस का बताया बिकॉज मैं आपको थोड़ा सा इंडिया और रशिया के बारे में भी बताता, बहुत नॉट इन ग्रेट डिटेल, बट merely to give you a contrast that what goes right with India Russia when everything starts going wrong between India and the United States. रशिया, जैसे आप कई लोग आप जानते होंगे, पहले एक सोवियत यूनियन होता था कई साल पहले. दिस इज वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ 50s 60s 70s 80s. और then we all know the Berlin Wall fell, Cold War came to an end and Soviet Union became Russia. तो उस टाइम पे जो सोवियत यूनियन था वो कम्युनिस्ट था, और उस टाइम वो कम्युनिस्ट आइडियोलॉजी को भी दे वर ऑल्सो इंटरेस्टेड, वो पूरी दुनिया में फैलाना चाहते थे, स्पेशली इन इंडिया. और उस टाइम वो, जहाँ तक मेरा, इफ आई रिमेंबर करेक्टली, दे यूज्ड टू फंड इवन द CPI, द कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी ऑफ इंडिया. उस टाइम कई स्कूल्स थे. आई स्टिल रिमेंबर देयर वाज अ स्कूल, एंड इट्स स्टिल देयर, स्प्रिंगडील्स, और वहाँ पर रशियन पढ़ाई जाती थी बिकॉज द प्रिंसिपल, अ वेरी फेमस प्रिंसिपल, शी wanted to spread the Russian language and culture in India. और उस टाइम काफ़ी क्लोजनेस थी बिटवीन इंडियन एंड रशियंस बिकॉज ऑफ दीज वेरी सोशलिस्ट पॉलिसीज ऑफ इंदिरा गांधी. तो ये इतिहास है. इट्स नॉट दैट रशिया हैज नॉट ट्राइड टू नॉट इंटरफेयर बट ट्राइड टू स्प्रेड देयर इन्फ्लुएंस इन इंडिया. लेकिन जब से रशिया बना है तब से द बॉल गेम इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट. सी रशिया इज अंडर पुटिन especially. Russia is, to my mind, a world power, a great military power, but it is also a country which knows its limits, but at the same time, it is a country which is proud of its tradition, of where it comes from, and it wants good relationship with India, come what may. और बड़ी जो सिग्निफिकेंट बात मैं आपको आज जो बताना चाहता हूँ, और इसको वी हैव टू कीप दिस इन माइंड व्हेन वी टॉक ऑफ दीज थ्री कंट्रीज. अब ये चीज़ देखिए कि India, Russia has been steadily getting closer to China. We know that. And the Russians make no bones about that. The Chinese, of course, welcome it. और ये एक डिबेट है कि Russia is a junior partner. I'm not too sure. To my mind, Russia still is a greater military power than China. But the fact is, these countries are very close. But the most important point, the most significant point is कि क्या भी कभी रशिया ने ऑब्जेक्ट करा है कि आप वेस्ट के करीब जा रहे हैं? I don't think so. They have not objected. They are very comfortable with that. They said, fine, you have your relationship with the West, you have your relationship with Africa, you have your relationship with the Gulf countries, Latin America, etc. And we are absolutely comfortable with that. They are not insisting that you join our coalition. Russia is certainly not, because Russia doesn't have a coalition, first of all, in that the kind which US wants or NATO wants. But they are certainly not insisting that India join their corner or their side of the camp. And that is the big difference between Russia and the United States. And that is the reason why India-Russia relationships are always steady. They are never rocky. Whereas India-United States relationships are always rocky. They keep going up and down, up and down. जैसे वो आपकी लाइंस होती है ना, मतलब आप देखते हैं, मतलब हार्ट बीट होती है, वैसे हमारे अप डाउन हमारी रिलेशनशिप में इंडिया यूएस में चलता रहता है. सो दिस इज द पॉइंट वी नीड टू रिमेंबर. तो अब लेट्स कम टू द प्रेजेंट सिचुएशन कि अब इंडिया यूएस में ये पन्नू की जो प्रॉब्लम है, ये क्या, व्हाट इज द रीजन फॉर दैट, और व्हाई दिस प्रॉब्लम इज इंपैक्टिंग अ रिलेशनशिप सो बैडली. तो मेरा एक प्रश्न है, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है विच आई वुड लाइक टू आस्क द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स. एंड द question, and the simple question is that, sir, please explain to me that who is Pannu? Okay, and probably there can be an answer that, oh, Pannu is some kind of a political activist. Some of us feel he's a troublemaker. There are a lot of people think he's a terrorist. So there's a range of opinion of who Pannu really is. If nothing else, Pannu is at least a troublemaker out to muddy the waters between India and the United States. That part is absolutely clear. Now, my question to the US is that, is Pannu a Nobel laureate? Is Pannu an eminent professor? Is he a great scientist? Is he a great academic? Is he some kind of a social luminary? What is he? He is, at the end of the day, a troublemaker, a little short maybe of a full-fledged terrorist, a man who is advocating separation of Punjab from India, a man who publicly threatens to blow up our airliners, a man who has actually threatened our political leadership, including the Prime Minister. This is the man that the United States is defending. What seriously has gone wrong in the US that you are defending a person like that on this entire pretext of this case that an Indian agent was sent to assassinate Pannu? Jokes apart, and this is a very serious issue, and this is an issue which I think is greatly troubling for the Indian government. That आपने चुना भी किसको, एक पन्नू को चुना है. कोई बहुत ही, as I keep saying, it had been a very illustrious person, it would still have made some kind of sense that we are talking about a plot to kill a very eminent person. But you're talking a degraded kind of a human being called Pannu, and you are defending that person, and you are willing to risk the entire India US relationship for a Pannu. And that is the big problem with the US. They don't see our point of view. And not only that, they're completely supporting Trudeau or Turdo or whatever you call that man. A man to, I personally believe, a man who's really in the pits. You're supporting him. And then, whether we like it or not, the question we are asking ourselves is this a white coalition, a coalition of white countries against a brown country? It really comes down to that. So these are questions which the United States has to answer. We don't have to answer that. All we know is we gave it our best shot. When I think it was in June 23rd, when Prime Minister Modi went to the United States, the relationship, the visit was a grand success. There were so many pronouncements they were made. I still remember images of President Biden, Prime Minister Modi, Jill, Biden. They're all walking hand in hand, laughing, chatting, joking, looking forward to the future. So many pronouncements were made. But seriously, let's take one example, that pronouncement of GE engines for the Tejas. You seriously think, first of all, I don't think so that deal is ever going to happen. But even if it were to happen, do you think that they would give you the engines without attaching political riders along with it? You would have to pay a political price for that. And that's the problem with the US. When you get your military hardware from the Russia, they are not extracting a political price from you. It's a straight commercial transaction. And that's a big difference between Russia and, for that matter, even France. When France is selling its hardware to you, when France is selling Rafales to you, they are not insisting on a political change or a political change of course from India. Not at all. And this is the point which escapes the United States. And this, to my mind, is the single biggest problems we are having with the US. They attach political riders along with the cooperation which we seek from the US. So it's an irony, it's a certain degree of sadness that there is so much going on between the people of the US and India. There is so much in commonality we have. We all love going to the US. I know the people from the US come to India. They love it. All that is there. And yet this bureaucracy, and yet this far left, woke, pro-Islamic agenda of the US. This is the biggest stumbling block in good relations with the United States. And as long as this continues, I'm afraid India-US relations are always going to be rocky. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this particular podcast. I hope you enjoyed the CAA show, this particular episode. You like our show, do subscribe to us. You just have to click on the red button on your screen. And goodbye and cheers till next time.